and they were saying, counselling ain't for me. I said, absolutely fine, okay. So obviously asking why, and as we went down that path, and I just put it to him, I said, look, if you wanted to get fit physically and you went to the gym and that PT wasn't the right person for you didn't get that connection, you felt like that PT weren't working, would you stop going gym? And he said, no, I try a different PT. And I said, right, there you go. That's it, you've just hit the nail on the head. You've possibly not had the right connection with a counsellor in the past. It's about building them connections, building that rapport, and hopefully moving forward from that. And it kind of symbolises just of, like you said, is what we think about counselling at times. It's a natural process. You build up connections with people. You speak to people. You work with them. So yeah, it's something that I get a great deal out of as well, for the right reason.
Welcome to the Mantality podcast. We're recording at the incredible Wheatwood Hall Hotel podcast studio. This is a podcast that goes way beyond stigma. We talk about men's mental health and mindset. We encourage the type of conversation that will open you up to another way to live life, another way to see yourself and the world around you. If you are ready for that, you're in the right place. I'm Stevie Ward and I'm an ex-professional rugby league player and captain, and now I guess I'm a bit of a podcaster, a speaker, actor, writer, entrepreneur. I'm still working all that out, but at Mantality we help men take control of their mindset by teaching them to find purpose, resilience, and what I believe is the new success: inner peace. That sounds good. If you are that guy who is waking up to the fact that they need to do something different in life and the same old habits aren't working for you, it might be time to step up. If you want to start your journey with us, you can go to mantality.co.uk/coaching to join the best team you have ever seen.
Okay, just to start off, you two just don't look like counsellors, do you? You two do not look like counsellors. We're a counselling podcast, and I'm looking at Jon and Lee, and they're some big fellas. There's some guys that have been through some stuff and done something in life. But it's a part of the Mantality counselling journey, I guess, in getting to sort of redefine counselling and finally get counsellors that men can connect with, I think. So, to introduce where we are with Mantality counselling and why we've done it and how it's all going, Jon, can you just give us a little bit of a synopsis as we bring on our second counsellor, Lee Jewitt, who's played a lot more rugby than I've ever played, and had a longer career than me. Might have had as many concussions as me as well, I'm not sure, but we're all from similar backgrounds being rugby, but I think we see ways that we can improve it too. And this conversation, this podcast is going to be about the makeup of that and the progress that we are making already, and I guess how we want to continue to evolve and grow. Jon, could you just tell us a little bit about the why behind Mantality counselling and also how it's been going?
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, Stevie. Yeah, it's been going great in short, and I think this is why we find ourselves here tonight, introducing and welcoming Lee onto the team. As you recall, you and I did our first podcast sometime last year where we launched Mantality counselling, which came as a consequence of you and I working together on my dissertation and making a connection, making a friendship, and deciding that Mantality, of its various strings that it had to its bow, a great addition could be the counselling. And so we talked through it, how it might work, and launched it. And we were hoping for some conservative success, and we got some conservative success with a load of other success stacked on top of it, to be quite honest. From that first month that we launched it, it was absolutely great. Like I said, those who are listening can sort of go back and listen to our original podcast where we were really hopeful and really keen and hope that things would go well. I think it's about podcast 62 or 63, isn't it? It's some time ago now, but it's taken off brilliantly. The message and the values and the purpose of Mantality have been a huge, almost a huge way in which we've been able to really advertise and put counselling first and foremost in the minds of people who need it the most, and the people who've already had a pre-existing relationship Mantality through podcasts, through the apparel, through Evolve programs. They've been able to understand that this is something that's been available to them as a consequence of, you know, the promotion and the awareness and the profile of yourself as well. So that was brilliant. So I always knew that we stood a good chance of getting some awareness and getting some traction, but it took off hugely. I think that's because of the unique nature of it, really. It's growing all the time. It would be remiss of me, and it'd be quite ignorant of me to say that there are no men therapists out there and there's no men who specialise in seeing men. That's simply not true. But it's true enough to suggest that the field is dominated, if not by a traditional way in which people see therapists, i.e., predominantly female therapists, of which, you know, I've worked with myself. That's not the issue. It's more to do with the fact that there is this prevalent attitude that therapy simply isn't for men. Now that's improving, but, you know, using Mantality as a way forward to try and present and reframe counselling and reframe what we're doing, it's been hugely successful. And, you know, we started out that first month, so we started around April last year. That first month we had 20 sessions. We had 20 sessions of therapy amongst, I think it was about 4 or 5 clients. By the time we'd finished last year, I sort of reported back to you on how we'd done, and we'd delivered, you know, nearly 300 sessions of counselling across 40 clients, which was massive, absolutely massive. I don't know if you and I had any expectations, any sort of metrics or ideas about numbers. I know that I guess I didn't. I guess I just wanted to be busy. And if we were busy and we were getting good testimonials and people were happy, and the work for me from a therapeutic perspective was fulfilling and was providing tangible change for clients, and they were reporting that, and we were finishing on a real good high. I felt pretty good. But I couldn't have expected the numbers that we did. And so, you know, we finished 2021, you know, having seen over, you know, 40 clients and nearly 300 hours of counselling, and those two numbers are completely irrelevant as of now. You know, into nearly the end of the February, those numbers are considerably higher.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's a little bit of a background for how me and Jon came together and what Jon has been able to offer through Mantality Counselling. And it seemed very natural. It's been very natural to go into. Jon left his full-time job. And something else that seems even more natural, Lee, is you coming on board. I know we spoke a little at the sort of the Rugby League Cares Warriors Walk, which is bringing together all these old ex-players to get them together and give them a challenge, give them something to do. And me and Lee spoke at length, really. A little bit about life as being a rugby player, injuries, concussions, and what life would look like moving on from this at this event that Arrow Cares put on. It seemed really natural to me after chatting to him that it would be incredible to get Leon as a counsellor and to progress in the way that we're going, which feels natural, and it feels like something that we're building that can help redefine counselling and redefine what support is there for men. And more importantly, feeling like men can take up that support. Lee, what is counselling to you, and why do you do it?
Great question. Yeah. Just first, Stevie, I want to throw something back at you. What does a counsellor look like? Because at first you said you don't look like counsellors. I'm just curious about.
I know. Well, mate, that's what we're breaking down. I'm so conscious, mate. I'm so conscious of the word counselling and the concept of counselling.
Yeah.
And like Jon mentioned, the traditional sort of concept of what a counsellor is not two big guys staring across at me at the room and like. But the thing I want to cut through with this is having men that know that you guys have been through similar experiences, or know that you guys understand what it is to be a man, understand what it is to cope with the challenges of being a man, and whether that's being in the challenges of being in a rugby environment, whether that's being in the challenges of what it is actually to operate as a man in life. That's what I want to do, and that's why I'm so happy to sort of like bring you guys together and offer this, I guess. You guys don't look too scary. You don't look anything too crazy.
There was on that, Stevie. There was an hashtag that went round on Twitter. What do counsellors look like, or this is what counsellors look like. I think it actually was, and I think it was a really good sort of call to arms for psychotherapists and counsellors to say that actually we're coming all shapes and sizes. You know, there's no real sort of the archetype or the stereotype of about what a counsellor should look like. It's tired. It's probably a little bit offensive to the people who do actually look that way, but are bloody good therapists. But also, it's it shows that there are a variety of different people out there who come into this profession for different reasons. And I think, as Lee, I'm sure, will tell us in a moment, like, his story is as unique as anyone's really as to why he sort of came forward and decided that counselling and therapy was something for him. Because I know I've got my own story as well, which I shared on the last pod. So, yeah, I guess, Lee, why did you get into this anyway?
Yeah, and I think last time we spoke, Jon and Stevie, I was supporting players whilst playing, not counselling them because I didn't have the skill set. I was supporting players without knowing it for so long. Players feeling at ease, speaking to me about on-field issues, training issues, personal, family issues, and I was just kind of that person who'd listen and then obviously give advice at the time. But one thing I've always had is I've never given advice on what I would do. And as soon as I started studying myself, to be honest, and why I'm that person and why I like to help people, that's where it kind of led me into the counselling, and quickly I realised that a lot of the skills from a counsellor I'd have from just being me. I didn't when we speak about that natural way, I just felt like, well, I'm not fighting to show empathy. I've got empathy for people. I'll work closely with them. I won't work off my own beliefs and direct people that way. I can kind of put them to one side to a certain degree, and advise people at the time, a different way. But at the same time, all this was going on. We spoke about changing room environment. I quickly realised that everyone in a changing room was behaving different, whether that was 20 minutes before a training session, whether that was 20 minutes before a game. Everybody was behaving different. And as Stevie, Jon, you'll know, some lads were being sick in a bin. Some lads are singing, some lads are dancing, some lads are having a coffee. Some lads are, like myself, probably just in that moment, just getting ready to go into battle. And it quickly came to me of, wow, we're all going doing the same job in 20 minutes, but we're all reacting so differently. And that kind of led me on to studying, the psychology, the counselling, the human mind, our makeup, why we behave like we do. And that was kind of the biggest turning point for me. And then the more and more I studied, the more and more I took in, I knew I kind of cut my career short. I really think I did. Again, hindsight, could I have carried on? Well, yeah, possibly, but that fire in my belly was fading. And what I quickly realised was the things I was doing away from the game, speaking to people at the time, counselling people, that was making me happy. That was my purpose in life. So I chose then to say, you know what, that's my time now. I want to step in the unknown, because it was at the time, I was leaving a sport that I spent 17 years in to step into the real world, as we like to speak. So yeah, just going back to some of the stuff we're saying on the back of that, with counselling and what counsellors look like. for me, it's irrelevant to a certain degree. As soon as you find a connection with someone and you have them conversations, it looks a completely different. It's a different ball game then, if you like. And it's funny that we're speaking about this right now, because it wasn't long ago that someone asked me about connections, and they were saying, counselling for me. And this was a man who was speaking about men at the moment. I said, absolutely fine, okay. So obviously asking why, and as we went down that path, and I just put it to him, I said, look, if you wanted to get fit physically and you went to the gym and that PT wasn't the right person for you, you didn't get that connection, you felt like that PT weren't working, would you stop going gym? And he said, no, I try a different PT. And I said, right, there you go. That's it, you've just hit the nail on the head. You've possibly not had the right connection with a counsellor in the past. It's about building them connections, building that rapport, and hopefully moving forward from that. And it kind of symbolises just of, like you said, is what we think about counselling at times. It's a natural process. You build up connections with people, you speak to people, you work with them. So yeah, it's something that I get a great deal out of as well, for the right reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mate, and I love how you're saying that you look for that connection and you look for that person that it could be. And you hit the nail on the head where it's like, well, I look for another PT or I look for another person. I think that the stuff with counselling, and I think this is why we're trying to change the perception, or we're trying to sort of like bring in people that gives different skills, like you and Jon have different skills, you have different backgrounds, and similar experiences as well. But I think you have to be able to take it upon yourself when you're looking for counselling to think what it is you need, or to actually work out what you need, and who's the type of person that you want, what's the type of issue that you've got, who do you feel like would be best suited for helping you with that specific issue. So it really is about that human to human connection. And I think that what we're trying to do is really just try and offer that as much as possible, and offer that sort of like option for people to take it upon themselves to, when they feel, or when they wake up, when they feel like they need to clear something up, that they can do, and then they can use you guys as someone to sound that off with, and sort of get to grips with it. And Lee, just like in specific for you playing and your career, like, is there any moments you can think of which sort of came up for you in your life, or which sort of like really tipped you into wanting to pursue psychology, wanting to understand what psychology, how that worked in playing, but also for being happy in the world?
Yeah, I spoke about the different behaviours in the changing room. That was a huge turning point for myself. And then, I was very fortunate. We lost to yourselves at the time, Leeds, when I was at Cass, but I was very fortunate to play at Wembley. There's so many players what don't get that opportunity. And I remember before we went out, and one of the players, you could feel the tension, in the changing room, and as the lads were walking out, they said, "Don't look around, just keep your head down, because it'll overwhelm you." And a little bit different at that moment, during that day, building up, I felt no pressure. A little bit different. I'm usually the one who's relaxed, but I do feel a bit sick. I had none of that. None of that were going on. So obviously, could say, well, is that not a bit worrying? Probably the biggest game of your life, and that them natural behaviours aren't there. But what I quickly found is when I walked out, I looked around, and I soaked in everything. I embraced it, because ultimately it might never happen again. It never happened again. But that was a turning point for myself, as I can handle pressure probably better than what I thought. And everyone's got a different way of coping with it, and different way of experiencing it as well. So, I'm not saying it was the wrong thing not to look around. I'm not saying it was the right thing, but it worked for me. And it quickly came, not one size fits all. And I know Jon will speak about that with counselling, it's not one size fits all. And that became apparent pretty quick. Everyone's experiences, everyone's cultures, everyone's spirituality, everyone's experience different. along the way, their environment. So it can't be one size fits all. Everyone's individual, and it's what works for you. And just going back when you were speaking then, Stevie, sometimes, men who are walking through the door might not know what works for them. They might not. So it's digging them answers out for them, and letting them find the answers, opposed to myself sitting there giving answers, because that's not the way to do it. Everyone can find the answers. They're just hidden a little bit deep down sometimes. So yeah, mate, I think the two turning points were for me was the behaviours in the changing room, which was massive, and Wembley. But at the same time, I've had adversity along the way. I've had huge, which I'm pretty open about, and I have spoke about. My twin boys. I've spoke quite openly about them, about having to stop playing for 5 months because they were poorly boys. We moved to the hospital. We spent 5 months at the hospital with them. Got told, various things. So that job, that great job what I've done all my life, had to be put on hold for 5 months. But it put life in perspective for me again, and it's how I handled that situation and how I saw other mums and dads in the hospital handling that situation. Everyone's different.
Yeah. And what type of clients do you see, Lee, and what type of challenges have you sort of been dealing with and helping them with?
Yeah, I've had a full mix, and what I mean by that is, I've had ladies, men. I've done a lot of work with children and adolescents. A lot of the stuff is around worry, stress, anxiety, and to be honest, a lot of self-harm. I've done a lot of work around self-harm, and it's just, for me, it's just become apparent just how a lot of people need it normalising. A lot of things normalising, because we unnormalise so much in this day and age. That's my personal opinion. We unnormalise so much. So a lot of the time, people just want to hear some, I won't say hard truths, because they'll figure it out themselves, but they want to find the truth and get back to normalising how they're feeling. Being able to work through that. So yeah, Stevie, I'd say a full diverse mix, which is what I love to do. And when we speak about Mantality, the stuff, I can't wait. I really can't wait. Look, we're helping people, and it's helping people work through them struggles, them life struggles.
Jon, what challenges, or what do you feel like men put up with nowadays?
I've talked quite openly about some of the themes that I find, particularly working with men. I think fathers and sons is a huge topic for the men in general. Our childhoods as men, I think there's a huge emphasis, particularly on men, for when we stop being a child, that we forget about everything that happened to us. That somehow the ley lines, all that attachment, all that neuroplasticity that's been formed around the child. And by neuroplasticity, I mean the way in which our thoughts and feelings and the way in which our personality is created neurologically. We go through a real formative stage as a kid, and a lot of young men who faced difficulties, particularly I find, particularly around parents, and especially fathers and sons, is a real touch point for me. Getting them to understand and connect with the idea that what they've experienced wasn't right, formed them, and it's up for debate, and it's up for challenging, and their relationships and the role of fathers can be up for challenge as well, because I think, alongside the severity or the significant impact that our parents have on us, I think the role of mother and father sometimes, for a lot of people, means that they're beyond reproach, they're beyond comment and criticism, and that often leads a lot of clients, particularly men, to not really know where they are, because if they can't challenge this role of father, if they can't criticize, but they're still feeling a hell of a lot came from their childhood, or when they do start looking back, they find that a hell of a lot came from their childhood. Where are they? They can't label it. They can't push back. They can't criticize. They can't be objective. We're otherwise objective humans, where but where a child is concerned, we look at it through childlike eyes. And so I guess the dynamics around our parents and being parented, and then how we go on to be a parent, it's a huge touch point for a lot of men. A lot of men do go through postnatal depression. It's a huge, very, very unspoken about issue within men around attachment to our children, around the fears and worries and vulnerabilities around being a father, and that's also quite figural in my work as well.
Yeah, and this is probably an open question for both of you, but I know you guys have spoken a lot as we have been sort of introducing Lee to Mantality Counselling, and Lee's been coming into a lot more of what we're doing. Is there a distinction between how you guys work as counsellors? Like, do you offer different things? You know, like what's the consensus that you guys have got to on that?
I mean, we train slightly differently. Our modalities is basically the arms or sort of schools of psychotherapy and counselling that underpin our qualifications. Slightly different. We're both person-centered therapists. Ultimately, Lee does a little bit of CBT and psychodynamic work. I work in Gestalt and emotion focused as well as existential therapy. But we would never have time to go into the depths of the distinctions between those. And essentially, Lee absolutely said it right and said it best when he said, you know, it's about seeing change, and it's about serving the client in front of you. And in that, we're very allied. We're both person-centered. We're both northern men who played rugby and now are therapists. So there's a lot more that combines us. So Lee obviously a lot more recently. But this is the thing. It's a values game, is therapy, above all else. And if your values and your purpose and your ethics and your approach and your drive and your passion are in place, then there will be a hell of a lot more that unites Lee and I than makes us distinct, really. We're looking for the similar sort of outcomes, but we're looking for the clients to be happy. But we're both predominantly person-centered therapists, which means putting the client in there as the focus of the work and having that flexibility of agenda. One question that you're always asked as a therapist, your supervisor should be asking you, when you're trained as a therapist, whose agenda is it? Ultimately, it's the agenda of the client. And I've got as many, ultimately, in practice, I have as many modes of therapy as I have clients receiving therapy, because everyone needs something different. It's a little add of this, a little reduction of that, more of this. Certain clients respond to certain things. Certain clients don't respond to anything. And as Lee said, you're going to have the odd one where you've got a therapeutic rupture and you're not going to be able to work with certain people. You're not for everyone, despite the fact that we cover quite a lot between the two of us within the psychotherapeutic and counselling world. You're not going to be for everyone, and it's understanding when to back away from that work and to recommend someone else as well. But I absolutely, we are in the business of creating a therapeutic environment through which clients can explore and find out a little bit more about themselves, and that's ultimately what Lee does. It's ultimately what I do, and so we're not as distinct as the pieces of paper and letters after our name would say, really.
Just on the back of that, John, it's people who come to therapy, or men who come to therapy, they got to come on the back. It's coming for the right reasons. But it's not because you've been told you have to come. It's because you want to see that change, and at the moment, I'm probably not thinking and behaving the way I want to. So maybe I do need a little bit of support, a little bit of help. So I think that's it. That plays a huge part as well. Is people who are coming through the door, or men who are coming through the door, is understand that they're coming because they want to see a change as well, rather than being told you need to go or you have to go. I think that plays a huge part in this. It
does. We call that agency, won't we? And I do still get clients for whom, both male and female, for whom their partner will ring up, a parent will ring up, their wife will get in touch, or people are trying it just because it's the thing to do. And there is a correlation between buy-in and success at the end. You'll know yourself. You will know early on if a client is there because they think they should be, or they're there because they really want to be. Because we're not magicians. I think people really, there's a lot of deconstructing this myth around psychotherapists that we know what you're thinking and that we can see into your brain. No, we can't. We work with what you tell us, and we work with feeling. We work at a depth, and if we can't get to a depth because the client is not, then they don't have agency, or they're not that interested, or it's not ready. They're not ready for it. Then we're not going to be able to do our job. That's absolutely. I think you're right. I think you're spot on.
No, and just sorry, Stevie, just backing up again from that. It's I use this with a lot of clients, who come to me and they'll speak about, I'm the expert, and no, me and Jon aren't the experts. We're not. We're not living your life daily, minute by minute, hour by hour. We're not. All we can do is help and help you find them answers. The clients are the experts. They're the experts. Yeah. They're the ones living it. They might just need a bit of direction. Now, as soon as you flip that around and you give them that, you're the expert. You see them kind of gain that little bit of strength that potentially they didn't think they had. That bit of control that they felt like they didn't have. All of a sudden, they become the expert. They might just need a little bit of guidance around and support around that. Them issues that obviously are causing them problems.
Yeah, and just for me, guys, as well, touching in this in terms of counselling and with the membership evolve that we do use, and we bring people into it and we sort of talk them through the pathway to evolving mentally, becoming better mentally. That goes from wake up to show up. And I won't go into too much depth about those stages, but one of the stages is clear up. And in terms of clear up being such an important part of the process and being able to make progress, clearing up thoughts and emotions that are stopping you from acting and behaving and showing up in the world as you want, and in the way that you see yourself being, is so important. And I've got to a point where over the last couple of months I've suffered with anxiety quite a bit, just coming from different things that have happened in my life and where I've been, and I've wanted to resolve this anxiety, and I've been used to living with anxiety and sort of managing my mind and state of mind, mental health, but I wanted to be able to clear this anxiety up, and that was a massive sort of issue for me, and it has been. And to be honest, like after the last few weeks of actually speaking with a counsellor and sort of understanding my journey and understanding more of what's gone on in the last few years, it's enabled me so much more like free and so much like less worried, less stressed, less questioning. I question stuff a lot. That's the issue that I have. Even when things are going well, I can question stuff, and it's about understanding that stress and that worry, like you said, Lee, and being able to sort of normalize it too. I think normalizing it is such a big thing, and I guess that's what we've been doing as Mantality for so long. But being able to sort of clear that up, it's like just move that out of the way so I can focus on what I know is right and what I know is in line with my values, and it takes me forward. And I don't know if you'll sort of you guys will connect with this, either as therapists or as people. I get a big sort of like kick to move into it or to start counselling or to start speaking to someone, because I'm like, I don't want to live and be half doing it, like I see mental health as such an important thing now. And when I have that anxiety and when I'm moving from a different lifestyle like you guys have done, I'm like, nah, I don't want to live half cocked here. I don't want to put up with it, I don't know if you guys can sort of, it's like that memento mori. It's like, remember you are going to die, it's like that side of it where it's like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to fucking live, it's that part of it. And I think men sort of connect with that and can appreciate that sometimes is the thing which makes them message, yourself, Jon or Lee. But Is that something that you guys can connect with?
Me completely. Like I come from like an existential field where that kind of considerations, that idea of, all right, this is my life, and the whole Fight Club thing, this is your life and it's ending 1 minute at a time. How are you going to spend it? It's quite pertinent to me. And I meet a lot of men for whom they will milestone their life, and they don't always like where they're at versus where they think they should be. Like, should's a horrible word, and Lee will tell you it's a horrible word in therapy. Should. I should be doing this and should be doing that. It's ultimately about maintaining curiosity and possibility. And I think it's such a rebellious act to come to therapy. It's such a rebellious act because what you're saying is, I want to look around that corner and I'm going to need someone to walk me to look around that corner. That's hugely powerful. I think one of the saddest things of all is when we lose our curiosity. This can happen in any stages. I wrote a dissertation about sort of metaphysical death, where, when people retire but don't know what to do or don't know how to be. That defining moment in their life means that often they're paralyzed with fear and an impossibility of reason, of curiosity, of possibility about what's coming next. Always striving to get around that corner. That's the huge buzz that I get. I can't speak for Lee, but I kind of can, because I know it'd be his answer. We get a huge buzz for looking around that corner with people and going, wow, didn't expect to see that. This is massive. And Lee is absolutely right when he said that they're the expert. We're the expert when things go wrong. We're not an expert in their lives. We walk with them round that corner and navigate those possibilities and those pitfalls. And through it, they arrive at a place that's uniquely theirs and was always meant to be theirs before whatever happened. That's the magic of it. And that's, as a therapist, when you lose that, when someone loses that curiosity, that's one of the saddest things of all, and where you've really got to sort of drive people to understand that there is always possibility, regardless of age, regardless of circumstances. There's always possibility. And so, yeah, it absolutely is a turn on as a therapist to work with people in that regard, with no doubt about it.
Yeah, fully agree, John. Fully agree. And when you are walking alongside someone, on the journey, it's the hardest thing I always find is for someone to question their own beliefs and question that. And now, until you start questioning them at times, you're never going to find that answer. And you just spoke then, Stevie, about living life to the fullest, living it purposefully. And a lot of the time, our beliefs have been ingrained in us from a young age, to act a certain way, to behave a certain way. Who said they're right? Until you open that up, and there's socially acceptable behaviours, we know that, and I'm not kind of deviating away from them, but I'm getting at the fact that their own beliefs of behave a certain way when actually that makes you unhappy. Right? Okay, well, let's question that now. Is that what Johnson? I'll walk around that corner with you, but we've got to question a few things on the way, or you've got to question a few things on the way. And then identity. I think identity sits into this hugely for a man. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of many here because of obviously the podcast we're on, but the identity of a man and the identity of so many people of the old school way of who should be supporting the family financially, and changing the whole concept of that, because times have changed so much. So identity. And then I came across a little piece not long ago, probably about 2 weeks ago, and I thought it was brilliant, and it did change a few of the way I thought, to be honest. And we speak about something as subtle as I need to go and do a food shop, or I need to go to the gym, or I need to go for a walk, or I need to go and see John. Now, them words, we put so much pressure on ourselves without knowing it, right there. And then I came across a little quote, and they said, you know what? Have you ever thought about you get to do it? Because not everybody gets to go for a walk. Not everybody gets to go to the gym. Not everyone gets to go to work for whatever reason. And now it's that, I suppose, that positive psychology to a certain degree, isn't it? You get to do it as opposed to I need to do it. And you take that pressure away. And it just starts to change your mindset there, and the way you process things. And especially, when you do take a lot for granted, if you like, I don't really like using that, but we do at times. But actually, you get to do a lot of stuff. You don't need to do it because you're putting pressure on yourself. You get to do it. And it changed a lot. It changed my concept of that a little bit, and the way I think about things.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess in therapy, or you guys as counsellors, you'll get guys to go from shoulds to coulds, have or need to get tos. It's like you are looking around that corner, and at the same time, I guess, as challenging the beliefs and normalizing how you are feeling or how you have been feeling. Because I think as men, we just don't allow ourselves to feel anxious or stressed or worried. We just we have that other layer on top of it where we're like, why am I feeling like this? I shouldn't be like this. I need to be in the rat race. I need to be not stressed. I need to be sort of like just getting on with things, which makes things worse and makes things harder. But as well as sort of like a general level, and this is, I'm not a counsellor, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but I am someone who's been obsessed with looking at how to become the best version of yourself and discover what your best is and show up as the best version of yourself in the world, whatever you're doing. Everything seems to direct you like towards yourself, discover your best. Everything this seems to direct you to looking at your own values, at what you enjoy doing, at what you believe is right in the world and what you value in the world. And even when I'd go through work with Alan Johnston, and you're doing performance profiling as a player, as an athlete, everything's just unlocking what you believe and what you enjoy and what you value as a player and how you want to play, and it's getting you to unearth it and then just act on it and behave to it, train to it. And, it's just like the stuff that we do in Evolve. We're just discovering their best, we're just giving them the situation to discover their best to then go out and do it. And I guess counselling is the sort of the way to do that one-on-one, and to just go, look, that's it. I've had enough of being cloudy. I've had enough of being anxious. I've had enough of judging myself, judging other people. Who can look at this map that goes behind me in the past, that stays with me now, and how I'm thinking about the future. It's like a full-on decision to do that and to get curious, as you said, John.
Yeah, and it's about authenticity as well, and it's a word that I use quite a lot, unlocking your authenticity and being the fullest version of yourself and the true version of yourself. Because as Lee said, absolutely right, the identity and the ideas and traditions and pressures to be a certain way and be a certain man and adhere to certain social stereotypes takes us so far down a path of badness, simply because it's not our true path. And there will come a day when I do not talk about AJP Taylor's The Origins of the Second World War, but today is not that day. I am going to talk about this book. It's the best psychotherapeutic book that has ever been used, and the reason why it's tenuously psychotherapeutic. It's nothing to do with it. It's to do with the origins of the Second World War. But as a former historian, I knew about this book. But what it does is it challenges the reasons why it started, and says, look at this a different way, and that's therapy. It's literally therapy. That book at the time was absolutely pilloried, and so was the guy that wrote it. And this is why there's a lot of taboo around therapy, because when it's so hard to challenge the status quo, it's so hard to challenge conventional wisdom about who we should be as a man, how we should be as a man, how we should speak, the emotional depth to which we should go, that actually, we're worried about copying a little bit if we do push at that door and go through it. And while it's a prop for me as a therapist, I absolutely did this idea that you've got to go your own path. That author and it absolutely went his own path and went, oh, by the way, guys, we might be slightly to blame for the beginning of the Second World War. Yeah, Nazis will do Nazi stuff and they're very bad men. However, we did squeeze the knackers off the Germans and create terrible conditions, which meant that Nazism prevailed. And everyone went, that's terrible. That's really unpatriotic. Now, that's the book that you get handed if people want to really understand the origins of the Second World War. So that which isn't conventional wisdom at one time suddenly becomes the prevailing wisdom later on. I hope in sort of 5-10 years we're in an environment where men's therapy and men's mental health and men's holistic health it goes through the same sort of process where people really reevaluate it and go, we need to challenge conventional wisdom to a point where we create the new conventional wisdom. And so you're absolutely right. That identity that we are struggling and, to get off our throat and stop strangling us. That's gradually happening, and I think we need to really, really work with men who really want to delve into that and move forward with what makes them them, and what's for them and about them and suits their need.
Yeah. Love that. And Lee, just as we're closing down here, we've all been involved in rugby in some way, shape, or form, but I'm really interested to ask you what your thoughts are on how rugby life as an athlete, as a player, as someone who's grown up loving the game and enjoying the game, how could that improve for you? You've been at so many different clubs and you've played flipping so many games. Like, how could that be made better for athletes?
Great question. For myself, now I'm speaking obviously from my own experiences here. Again, financial situations change a lot, like anything in life. But from a rugby point of view, welfare's going better, a lot better than obviously it was. Like anything, it moves on, and welfare's really taking off, and they're doing a great job at the moment. But in a perfect world for me, you'd have a counsellor or psychologist within that framework as well. And I know, like I said, the welfares are getting trained, level 3 counselling. But at the same time, I think you need a little bit more than that. And again, I'm being biased. Well, maybe. But I think, for someone for so long, I'm speaking on behalf of Rugby League, for so long it's been about the physical attributes and the physical elements of the game. Now, yeah, I understand that, because you've got to go out there and as we say, put your body on the line. That's what you do. You've got a 20-stone man running at you. Now, I'm pretty certain when I was crawling around as a nipper, I weren't planning on a 20-stone man running at me at so many miles an hour, and I've got to put my body in front of him. So, I get the physical element, but from a mental state, would it have helped me massively if I knew what I knew now regarding the psychological framework of myself and of others? 100%. So again, yeah, I might be speaking a little bit biased, but I just think having counsellors, psychology, around them areas, because ultimately, it's still in sport now. There is a little bit of, there's that stigma. You speak about clinical psychologists, within a sporting framework. There's a stigma around that still, and it's about taking that away, and understanding that how can you be the best version of yourself? We're all going to experience life difficulties. Okay, it's not right for me to sit here and say no one will face some form of adversity, some form of trauma at times. We're going to, life can be difficult, which again, I'm normalising it again. Life can be difficult at times, but having that support network around you and having them people you can have them conversations and open up with, it gives you a whole different dynamic, especially as a player. And I said players there, but actually, as we know, you've got coaches, you've got backroom staff. Now, if your staff and your players, if you're involved in a rugby league club, or you're involved in a business, if you like, if all they need to focus on, and they've got that healthy mindset, and all they do is come into work, not worrying too much, they're stressed, they've got people around them, they can come in, they can do the job, and they can get on with the job, and the coaches can come and do the coaching, and then you've got, your welfares, your counsellors, your psychologists sat in the middle. To me, that's a real healthy business, a healthy rugby league club, a healthy football club, whatever it's. There's a real healthy structure, and I like the word healthy, as you can tell, but it just emphasises how much from shifting from the physical elements of a game to the mental elements of the game, because it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And so, yeah, to sum it up, I think we need in a perfect world, you'd have counselling psychologists within a club.
Yeah, love that. Is there anything you guys want to add as we close down, as we end the podcast?
No, I'm. This has been if not lonely, but certainly a singular furrow that I've ploughed for nearly 12 months now. So to get a colleague is kind of nice. I left full-time employment to come and be a therapist based on the principles that I were going to be curmudgeonly and miserable and only work for myself. And I find myself nearly 12 months later pining for colleagues and getting one in Lee Jewitt. So I'm kind of chuffed. So it's nice. It's nice. It's nice to have that sort of someone to throw ideas about with, to talk, who knows the environment as I do. And I know that if the Lancashire and Northwest arm of Mantality psychotherapy and counselling goes half as well as it has done over here in Yorkshire, because it can only ever go half as well in Lancashire as it can in Yorkshire, obviously. But like, if it rocks and rolls, and absolutely on a merit-based reason, because Lee's a great therapist and a great fella, I know that it's going to be absolutely brilliant as this. And so I'm really excited about, adding the Northwest to what we've already done in Yorkshire and with plans ahead. So I'm super excited about this. This is going to be grand.
And probably on behalf of me, Stevie, here, like it's obviously it's a huge privilege, to be asked, to be asked from yourself and Jon and speaking with Dom as well, to come on board and lift this, and keep it moving. But for myself, it's a privilege that I get to share, and I know Jon will speak here from a therapeutic point of view. I get to share these journeys with men. They've put that trust. They feel they're not going to be judged. You hold that safe space with them, and you can have them conversations. So a huge part of my purpose and just everything about being able to share them spaces with men and people in general, and it's a huge privilege for myself, and I'm sure Jon will back me up with that one. It's such a, I don't know, if someone said to me, what's your perfect role, because I don't call it a job, because this is more than a job, what's your perfect role in life, what's your purpose in life? Personally, it's what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And where your excellence and your passion combine, you're going to be good. And I think, I've never had a role in my life where I felt so at home and such sense of belonging, and to be able to do that through Mantality and, to work with you guys is class. So long may that continue.
Yeah, I'll back that up, guys. I feel like we are creating a team. I feel like we are getting a team that's got the right values in place, the right sort of mission, the right purpose. And as I said, feels really natural, and it feels like something that I'm so excited to be a part of. And I don't get to do the conversations that you guys do. And, eventually I'll get my own flipping counselling qualification. But it's a dream. It's an absolute dream to see this team coming together. And, Lee's going to be operating around over in the Northwest in Lancashire, and obviously online too. And I think, guys, as we keep going, it'll grow. And the beautiful thing is we're going to just have more and more men, more and more people that come into the Mantality world and can feel more like themselves again, and feel like they're doing themselves justice. And it makes me really happy. It makes me really, really happy to even be a part of it. So thanks for coming in, and eventually we might have a full 13. Who knows? Maybe with some reserves on the side as well. But yeah, growing the team's amazing, and I know we spoke a lot about men in this episode, and it's Mantality. It may eventually become Mantality, who knows? But just to reiterate that it's not all focused on solely men. Jon sees women, and Lee sees women as well. It's perfectly an option for anyone who's listening to this that feels like that they can connect with Jon, they can connect with Lee, and they connect with Mantality, whatever that means to you. So yeah, thanks very much for listening. And Lee and Jon, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be incredible too.
Cheers.
Cheers, Stevie. Good night.